Some nights carry a different kind of quiet. That's where we begin. Not with a bang, not with drama, but with the simple acknowledgement that tonight is the kind of night where the weight sits heavier than usual. The kind where even small thoughts feel like they're carrying stones. If you've brought any of that heaviness with you, that distance, that uncertainty, that fear of what happens when people we love are far away, you can set it down here for a little while. I'm glad you made it in. Before we start, I want to tell you something. This is a curated sleep experience. It's carefully researched, gently shaped to be as accurate as possible while still helping you unwind. Everything you're about to hear comes from letters preserved in the Imperial War Museum archives, oral histories collected by the Library of Congress, veterans' diaries held at the National Archives, memoirs published in the decades following the war, and photographs kept safe by families who lived through those years. We're building this story on the foundation of what was real. The world has told you one story about World War II. It's a story about battles and strategy, about explosions and heroics, about men running toward danger with rifles in their hands. That story is true as far as it goes, but there's another story underneath it. A quieter story, a story that lived in the hours between the dramatic moments, and that's the story we're stepping into tonight. Between 1939 and 1945, millions of ordinary people found themselves living extraordinary lives shaped by a global conflict they didn't choose. Young men left their homes, some volunteering, some drafted, all uncertain whether they'd ever return. They went to training camps, to barracks, to ships, crossing oceans, to trenches and beaches and distant lands. Meanwhile, their mothers held on to old photographs and checked the mailbox every single day. Their wives wrote letters by candlelight, trying to fill the space between words with everything they couldn't say out loud. Their sweethearts waited, not knowing if waiting was still possible, if distance had already done its work. The story of war is often told through grand gestures and big decisions. But the story of survival, the story of how people actually endured, that's quieter. It lives in morning routines, in the precise folding of a shirt when folding has become the only thing you can control. In coffee that tastes like nothing but warmth when real coffee is a memory. In the anticipation of mail call, that moment when your name might be called, and suddenly you have proof that someone remembers you exist. In letters written by lamplight about small things that felt enormous when you were miles away from everyone you loved. This story explores those quieter moments, the daily routines and small acts of connection that sustained people through years of separation, the ordinariness that made the extraordinary bearable. We're going to move through one particular day in one particular barracks in England in 1943. Not a day when anything dramatic happened, not a battle day or a departure day, just an ordinary day that felt exactly like the one before it, and exactly like the one that would come after. But underneath that ordinary surface lives everything that makes survival possible. Now, before we begin, let me ask you to do something. Turn on a fan if you have one. The white noise will help. Dim the lights in your room. Feel the weight of your pillow beneath your head. Let your breathing slow down. There's no rush. We have time. We have all the time in the world, actually, because this is a story about how people fill their time when they have nowhere to go. For the next hours, we're going to move slowly. We're not rushing to a climax. We're not building towards some dramatic moment. We're waking up in a military barracks in Nottinghamshire, England. We're going to move through this day as it actually moved, moment by moment, routine by routine, thought by thought. Some moments will feel repetitive. That's not a flaw. That's the entire point. Repetition is what survival looks like. Routine is how people endure separation. When you feel your mind drifting, let it. That's not you losing focus. That's you doing exactly what our main character, James Edward Hartwell Jim, as his friends call him, is doing right now. You're existing in the space between duty and dream. You're learning how to be present in a place you never wanted to be. You're discovering, as he is, that sometimes survival isn't about being happy or even being comfortable. Sometimes it's just about showing up, about reaching across the distance, about believing that someone is waiting. So settle in, let the world outside fade away. There's a barracks that smells of damp wool and cold smoke. There are 35 men sleeping around you. There's a letter in your pocket, just one from someone you love, and you haven't removed it even for sleep. There's a routine waiting that will begin in exactly 5 hours and 30 minutes when a sergeant walks through these barracks and says the same 3 words he says every morning. There's a war happening somewhere far away, but in this moment the war is distant. What's present is the cold, the darkness, the sound of men breathing around you, and the question that wakes you up before the alarm ever could. How much longer can I do this? And underneath that question is the real question. Is someone waiting for me? Does my life matter to anyone but me? By the end of this day, by the end of this story, you'll know the answer. You wake before dawn, not because of the alarm. That hasn't come yet. You wake because your body has learned to anticipate it. After 4 months in this barracks, your nervous system has absorbed the schedule so completely that it no longer needs the bell to tell you it's time. Your eyes open in the darkness and you lie still for a moment, catching that last fragment of the dream you were having, something about home, something about your mother's kitchen before it dissolves into the present. The darkness is complete. That's one thing about English winters you didn't expect. They don't give you a gentle morning. They don't ease you from sleep with gradually lightening skies. They give you hours of black, and then suddenly it's supposed to be time to be awake. The sky won't turn grey for another 30 minutes. Right now it's just dark. A darkness so complete it feels like the world might never come back. Your eyes adjust slowly to the shapes around you. The silhouette of the bunk above you empty because Private William Reardon is out on patrol until next week. The outline of your footlocker at the end of your cot, everything inside folded to regulation standards. The narrow strip of window that shows you absolutely nothing but the promise of grey to come. The air smells like you've learned to expect it. Damp wool primary above all else. The kind of smell that comes from uniforms that never truly dry in this climate. Beneath that cold smoke from the stove they keep burning all night in the corner of the barracks, meant to take the edge off the cold, but mostly just adding its own metallic quality to the air. And underneath both of those things, something else. Something that's 35 men sleeping in a space designed for 20. Not unpleasant exactly, just undeniable. The smell of proximity, of shared breath of bodies that haven't had a private moment in months. The smell of being known whether you want to be known or not. Around you, 35 other men sleep in narrow cots arranged in neat rows. Some sleep with their faces turned toward the wall as if by turning away they could escape. Some sleep flat on their backs, mouths slightly open, lost completely to exhaustion. One man in the cot to your left that's Private Marcus Washington from Georgia coughs, a small sharp sound that disturbs the carefully maintained quiet. Somewhere down the row, Private David Sullivan, who's always thinking about someone, mutters something in his sleep. Words that almost form sentences but don't quite. You've learned their names. You've learned their rhythms. Marcus coughs at 5:15 every morning without fail, as if his body keeps its own clock. Tommy Chen, the young one from San Francisco, talks in his sleep about places he'll never see again. Hank Kowalski snores in a pattern, one long breath, A pause, then a quieter breath. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. After months, these sounds are familiar enough that silence would feel strange. You lie still, staring at the dark ceiling beams barely visible in the pre-dawn darkness. Your body is warm beneath the blanket, one of the military-issued blankets that's thin enough to see through, but somehow still traps heat, but you know that in 15 minutes you'll be cold. The barracks are always coldest just before dawn, as if the night is making one last effort to hold on before giving way to day. You're not in pain, but you're not comfortable either. You're in that in-between state where every part of you could stay still for another hour, but you know sleep is finished. Your mind is already beginning its work, cataloguing the day ahead, running through the routine you've done 100 times before, asking the same questions you ask every morning. In your pocket, the one thing you haven't removed, even for sleep, because you told yourself this was allowed, this small violation of regulation, you have a letter. It arrived 11 days ago. You've read it so many times that you know certain sentences by heart, can recite them without looking. Your mother's handwriting, careful and precise. The garden is coming in nicely, she wrote in November, when nothing is coming in anywhere, when the world is grey and cold, just like here. Your sister sends her love, though you know she's angry. You know she thinks you volunteered for nothing. But that's not the sentence that matters. The sentence that matters is this: I think of you every morning when I make coffee and wish you were here to drink it. What she's really saying is, I wake up worried. I start my day afraid. I make coffee, and I think about where you are and whether you're safe and whether you'll ever come home. But I make the coffee anyway. I keep living. I keep doing the things I did before, because if I stop doing them, then maybe you've won. Maybe the war has taken more than you could actually take. That's what mothers are, you think. They're people who keep making coffee. You don't take the letter out now, you just feel it there against your ribs, solid and real and 3 weeks old. It's been folded and unfolded so many times that the creases are beginning to tear slightly. You should probably stop reading it so much, but you won't. At exactly 5:30, the wake-up call comes, not harsh, not violent. Sergeant Edmund Whitmore isn't the type. He walks through the barracks with footsteps that are slow and even measured in a way that suggests he's been doing this for a very long time and has long since made peace with it. His voice when he speaks isn't loud enough to be unkind, but it's loud enough that you can't pretend you didn't hear it. All right, lads, up, up, up. Let's move. 3 words. The same 3 words every single morning for the past 4 months. You wonder sometimes what Sergeant Whitmore does on Sundays. The one day he doesn't say these words. Where does he go? Does he sit somewhere and not talk? Does he say something different to his family? You've constructed elaborate narratives about him. You think he has a daughter. You think he lost his wife to something mundane, influenza maybe, or an accident. You think that's why his voice, when he says those 3 words, contains a kind of gentleness. But these are all stories you've invented. The truth is probably simpler and sadder. You swing your legs out of bed. The movement is automatic now, not requiring any thought. Your uniform is folded on the footlocker. You did that last night before sleep, the same way you'll do it again tonight. Your boots stand upright beside your cot, where they've been every night since someone found a scorpion in their boot 3 months ago. A man from Montana, you think, or maybe Nebraska. He taught everyone the boot ritual. Check 'em every time, he said. Scorpions don't care about military courtesy. Your feet touch cold floorboards, and the shock of it wakes up your body in a way the sergeant's voice hasn't quite managed. It's such a specific cold, not freezing, but colder than your skin under the blanket, and the contrast is almost violent. Your toes curl involuntarily. Around you, every other man makes the same movement simultaneously. Swing legs, feel cold, stand up. The choreography is so practiced now that it feels like a dance you all learned and have performed 1,000 times. Even the groans are synchronized. Even the small sounds of reluctance follow a pattern. Marcus groans softly but sits up anyway. His face still has sleep creases on it from the pillow. That's something nobody tells you about military life. You never feel fully awake. You're always caught between states. Too tired to be fully present, but too alert to slip back into real sleep. "Another glorious day in paradise, lads," Marcus mutters. It's not original. He says something like this every morning. You've heard enough variations that you could probably predict the next thing he'll say, but there's something comforting about it anyway. The repetition, the certainty that Marcus will complain, that Sergeant Whitmore will move on, that the cold floor will shock your system, that the day will proceed exactly as it has for the last 100 days. For some reason right now, that certainty feels like a gift. You dress quickly, the uniform has become a second skin. Buttons in a specific order, you learned this in the 3rd week and it's been automatic ever since. Laces with particular loops that you tie without looking. Everything has its place and its method. Your fingers work automatically now, muscle memory taking over. While your mind wanders, you think about home. You think about Catherine O'Brien, who you left behind, who you haven't heard from in 8 weeks, and who you're trying very hard not to think about because thinking about her makes the waiting harder. The washroom is crowded. 35 men try to shave and wash at the same time in a space designed for maybe 12. There are 3 rows of sinks. Each sink has 2 faucets. The mathematics don't work, but everyone has learned to pretend they do. You've learned the rhythm. Grab your towel, find a small space at the sink, secure it with your body, complete your business, move on. The whole process should take 5 minutes. If you're slow, 8. If you're careful, someone else will want your space, and you'll have to move anyway. The water runs cold from the taps. This isn't exaggeration or complaint. There is no hot water in this barracks. You've heard rumors that somewhere else in England, some other unit has hot water. You don't believe it. You've learned that most rumors about other units are invented to make other places seem better than they are. The cold water doesn't matter as much as you thought it would before you came here. Your body adjusts, your expectations adjust. You splash your face, and the shock of it brings you fully awake in a way that hot water never could. The cold is aggressive. The cold insists that you stop dreaming and come back to the present. There's a particular violence to cold water on a half-asleep face. Your whole nervous system jolts. Your breath catches. Someone beside you, you think it's Marcus, though you can't see clearly. Without your glasses, which are somewhere on the shelf, with all the other glasses, a jumbled pile, where you mostly guess which ones are yours, mutters something about bastards with the cold water. But he's splashing his face too, so he doesn't really mean it, or he means it, but accepts it as part of the system. You reach for your razor. The razor is dull. You keep meaning to ask about getting it sharpened, but the person who does that is hard to find. Maybe you'll ask today. Maybe you'll ask tomorrow. Maybe you've thought this every day for a week and you'll keep thinking it. The mirror shows a face you still recognize, but one that has changed. It's not dramatic. It's not like you've aged 10 years. It's more subtle than that, something in the set of your jaw, something in the tightness around your eyes. There's a scar on your cheekbone from the 3rd week of training, a moment of violence. You can't quite remember, something to do with a rifle butt and a fight that happened too fast. Your hair is shorter than you'd wear it at home. Your skin has that particular pallor that comes from living without much sun and a lot of institutional food. You're changing and you're watching yourself change, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The man next to you this time, it's definitely Tommy Chen, hums quietly while he shaves. He hums the same song every morning. It's from a radio show back home, you think, or maybe from a movie. You don't remember how you know it, but you recognize it well enough that sometimes you find yourself humming it too. The song is slightly off-key in his voice, but that might just be the acoustics of the washroom, which echoes everything and makes bad singers sound worse and good singers sound acceptable. You begin the careful work of shaving with the straight razor. It requires focus. One wrong move and you draw blood. You've never been particularly skilled with it, even though your father had a straight razor on his dresser, and you watched him use it sometimes, that particular ritual of men preparing themselves. Now you have this ritual too, and you're still not good at it, but you've stopped cutting yourself daily. So maybe that's progress. The washroom is steaming slightly from all the bodies and running water. The mirrors are fogged. You can see clearly for maybe 3 seconds after wiping the mirror with your hand. 3 seconds to check yourself, to make sure you're not bleeding, to make sure the face in the mirror is still yours. Then the fog returns and you're left shaving by feel trusting your hand and the muscle memory of 100 mornings that were mostly like this one. You finish shaving without drawing blood. It's becoming easier, this small victory. You rinse the razor under the cold water and set it carefully on the shelf. The shelf is wet. Everything is wet in this room. You wipe your face with a towel that never quite feels dry, but is the closest thing to dry that exists here. Around you, the other men finish their morning ablutions. Hank Kowalski, who's 23 and from Chicago, and somehow already seems ancient compared to the younger soldiers, splashes his face and comes up shaking water out of his hair like a dog. He catches your eye in the mirror and nods, just a small acknowledgement that you've both survived another night, that you're both still here, that the day is beginning whether you want it to or not. Water's colder than a witch's, he starts, but then stops himself. There's an officer somewhere in the barracks. Not close enough to hear, but close enough that you have to be careful. With language, heart, he finishes quietly. You manage a small smile. It's the kind of smile that costs you nothing, but feels important anyway. The washroom empties out gradually. Men drift away in ones and twos, pulling on uniform tops, rolling up their sleeves, moving toward the next thing on the schedule. You stay a moment longer, looking at yourself in the mirror. You're trying to memorize this face. You're trying to understand who you're becoming. In the glass you see a young man, you're only 22, though you feel older, with hollow cheeks and eyes that have learned to be careful. A young man who's learning to exist in a place he never wanted to be, doing things he never wanted to do, for reasons that make sense when officers explain them but feel less clear when you're alone at night. Tommy Chen is the last one to leave, still humming. The song follows him out of the washroom, and for just a moment it's just you and the mirrors and the cold water still running from one of the faucets. You turn off the water. Waste is a concept that's been drilled into you so completely that it's become instinct. You never leave a tap running. You never leave a light on. You never leave food on your plate. Everything matters now. Everything has a price. Everything connects to survival in ways you're still learning to understand. The mirror shows you something else, though, something underneath the physical changes. There's a kind of resilience beginning to form. You can see it in the way you're standing, the way you've learned to occupy space without taking up too much room. You're becoming a soldier, or maybe you're becoming something else. Maybe you're becoming a person who can endure. Maybe that's what soldiers are. Not men who want to fight, but men who've learned they can survive things they didn't think they could survive. You leave the washroom and head toward the breakfast area. The bell will ring in 3 minutes. You know this because you've timed it. You know the schedule better than you know your own heartbeat. The path from washroom to mess hall takes you past the inspection point. The Lieutenant Captain James Ashford, who's maybe 35 and clearly from a different world than you, is already there, checking that the beds are made correctly, that the footlockers are organized according to regulation. You feel his eyes on you as you pass, though you keep your gaze straight ahead. Looking at an officer is allowed, but too much looking is considered presumptuous. You're learning the subtle language of military protocol, the way every movement carries meaning. The mess hall is already beginning to fill. The smell of breakfast precedes you porridge, mostly with something that might be eggs and something that might be toast. The servers are lining up behind the counter, metal spoons in hand, ready to ladle the morning meal into your bowl. You join the line and grab a tray. It's dented on one corner from years of use. You pick up a bowl, a plate, a spoon, a fork. The fork has 2 tines instead of 4. You take it anyway because there isn't another option, and because you've learnt not to care about things like broken forks. The server ladles porridge into your bowl. The porridge is grey. It's warm, which is something. It has a texture that could be described as thick or gelatinous, depending on your mood and how much sleep you got. You don't hate it. You don't love it. You understand that its purpose is to fill your stomach and provide enough calories that you can function through the morning. It fulfills this purpose. That's what food is now, function rather than pleasure. Toast appears on your plate. The toast is slightly burned on the bottom edges. Someone in the kitchen is not particularly careful with the toast, or maybe they are, but the ovens are unpredictable. Or maybe it doesn't matter, because burned toast still fills your stomach. You've stopped wondering about it. A small spoonful of jam. It tastes vaguely of apples, but might be made from turnips. Honestly, you're not sure anymore. You asked someone once, maybe it was the cook, maybe it was someone who'd been here longer, what it was made from, and they said, "Does it matter?" Which is a fair point. It tastes like something sweet or almost sweet, or what your tongue remembers sweet tasting like. That's probably good enough. Coffee appears in a thick ceramic mug. The coffee steams. The steam has a particular smell that's both welcoming and slightly threatening. It smells like something industrial that someone is calling coffee. You wrap your hands around the mug because the mess hall is cold despite being full of men and cooking heat, and the warmth is more important than whatever the coffee tastes like. It tastes nothing like the coffee your mother made. Your mother ground real beans that she bought at the shop in town, and she made it in a percolator that made these satisfying sounds while it brewed. That coffee had flavors. This coffee tastes like hot. It contains enough caffeine to sharpen your thoughts and pull the last pieces of sleep away. It is functional coffee. It is survival coffee. It is the coffee of men who don't have the luxury of choosing what they eat. You find a space at one of the long wooden tables. The wood is scarred and stained from 100 years of use, probably, maybe longer. You sit across from Marcus, who's already halfway through his porridge, and beside David Sullivan, who's eating slowly, carefully, like he's trying to make the food last. You've learned to read the men around you. Marcus eats fast and doesn't taste anything. For him, food is fuel, a necessary biological function. David eats slowly, thinking while he eats. For him, food is a moment of peace, a break from whatever is happening inside his head. Conversation is minimal in the morning. Everyone focuses on eating, on gathering energy for the day ahead. The porridge is neither good nor bad. It simply is. You scrape your bowl clean because food is food and waste is unthinkable. There are people, you've read about them, heard about them, people who are hungry in ways you don't have language for. The thought of throwing away food, of not appreciating the calories in front of you, feels like a kind of betrayal. Your hands are cold, even wrapped around the mug. By the time you finish eating, they'll be warm. Then you'll go outside and they'll be cold again. You know this because you've done it every day, this cycle of cold and warm, cold and warm. Your body is learning to endure it. Your body is becoming someone else. Around you, other men eat their breakfast. Hank is telling a joke about something his wife wrote in a letter. Some of the younger men laugh, but it's the kind of laughter that comes from a place of homesickness, not actual humor. Tommy is still humming even with his mouth full of porridge. Will Reardon, the youngest one, is staring at his food like he doesn't recognize it. You've noticed him getting quieter every day. You wonder how long before the quietness becomes something else, how long before the routine breaks someone. You finish your coffee. It's time. The bell will ring in 4 minutes. The bell rings at exactly 6:15, and the routine continues. You file out with the others, tray in hand, depositing it on the stack that will eventually make its way to the kitchen. The servers are already moving on to the next batch of men. This is an assembly line, you think. This is how you feed 35 men efficiently. You move them through, fill them up, send them on. There's something almost beautiful about the simplicity of it if you try to see it that way. In the barracks, you return to your cot and make your bed. Hospital corners. You've learnt the technique so well that you could do it in the dark, probably though you haven't tried. The blanket has to be folded at precise angles. The pillows have to be arranged just so. When you're done, the bed looks like every other bed, identical, regulation perfect. It's one of the few things in this place that you completely control, and maybe that's why you do it so carefully. When everything else is being done to you, at least your bed is yours. The first inspection comes at 6:45. You stand at attention beside your bunk. Attention means back straight shoulders, back eyes, forward arms at your sides with palms facing inward. You've been standing at attention long enough that your body understands the position without your mind having to remember each component. It's muscle memory. Now, the same way you know how to tie your boots without looking. Your heart rate is slightly elevated, though. Inspection always does that, even though you know you'll pass. Even though you've passed every inspection for 4 months. An officer walks through the barracks. You don't know him well. He's not the commanding officer. That's someone else, someone who appears less frequently and carries more weight when he does. This officer is Captain James Ashford. He's maybe 35. He has the bearing of someone from a different class, someone whose family owned things before the war, someone who went to universities and knew how to speak with authority before the military taught everyone else how to do it. He walks slowly down the row of bunks. You hear his footsteps. You don't move your eyes to follow him, that would be breaking attention, but you hear him and you know he's coming. He checks that beds are made with hospital corners. Hospital corners are made by folding the blanket in a very particular way that you will learnt in the 3rd week here. And if you try to deviate from it, your corners fail and you have to redo the whole bed. You've made hospital corners enough times that you could do it blindfolded, but every morning while you're doing it, you're slightly aware of the possibility of failure. The blanket doesn't always cooperate with the geometry required. Your corners are correct. They're not perfect. You notice a wrinkle that might get you marked down if the captain is looking carefully, but they follow the regulation pattern. Diagonal fold tuck beneath fold over tuck, the edge beneath the mattress, create a sharp corner. It's like a problem in geometry. It's like a ritual. It's like the most pointless thing you've ever spent time on, and simultaneously it's the thing you spend mental energy on at 6:30 in the morning because it matters to people who matter, and therefore it matters to you. He checks that footlockers are organized according to regulation. Your footlocker is a small box at the end of your cot. Inside it, everything is folded and organized in a very specific way. The underwear is stacked, the socks are rolled, the undershirts are folded and placed in order. The regulation allows for very little personal interpretation. You've arranged it correctly because you've had weeks of practice and because you've watched what happens to men whose footlockers aren't arranged correctly and you don't want that to be you. He checks that boots are polished to a proper shine. Your boots are polished. You polished them last night after dinner using the proper cloth and the proper motion. You can see your reflection in the toe, not perfectly, but enough that you know the polish has taken. Polished boots are one of the things you've learned to take pride in, even though 3 months ago you wouldn't have believed you could ever take pride in such a specific, pointless thing as the shine on a boot. The captain moves down the row. He stops in front of your bunk for maybe 3 seconds. That's not a long time, but it feels like it stretches. You don't know what he's looking at. The corners, the footlocker, the boots, all three. He makes a small mark on a paper he's carrying. You don't know if it's a check mark or an X or something else. You don't know if you've passed or if you're about to be told to fix something. You've passed this inspection yesterday and the day before and the day before that. You know you'll pass it again today. But in the moment of him standing there, you don't know this and your body tenses as if it doesn't know. He moves on. You don't relax your attention position until he's finished with the entire row and left the barracks. Only then does the collective tension release. Only then do men make small movements, adjust their uniforms, roll their shoulders. The inspection is done. 30 seconds from now it will feel like it never happened. But for the moment it's happening, it consumes every part of your attention in a way that nothing else does, except perhaps mail call. Except perhaps hearing from home. Marcus mutters something under his breath. You can't hear what it is, but you know it's a complaint. Marcus complains constantly, and yet somehow his complaining doesn't bother you the way it might bother someone else. There's something real about it, something honest. In a place where you're supposed to accept everything without question, Marcus's refusal to pretend everything is fine feels almost revolutionary. Another day, another dollar, he says louder, now that the captain is gone. If they were paying me, that is. Hank laughs from 2 bunks over. It's a real laugh, the kind that comes from somewhere genuine. You find yourself smiling too. This is survival, you think. This is how you survive. Not by accepting everything with grim determination, but by finding small moments of humor in the absurd, by knowing that the routine is absurd and acknowledging it, even if only with a look or a quiet laugh. The morning drill begins at 7 o'clock. You file out onto the parade ground. It's a large open space where the grass has been worn away by thousands of marching feet, leaving packed earth that's hard and slightly muddy from yesterday's rain. The ground is uneven in places. You've learned the precise point where it dips, step 23. From the corner of the barracks, and you adjust for it without thinking. You march in formation across the parade ground, left, right, left, right. The rhythm becomes automatic. Your body doesn't have to consult with your mind about what comes next. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Your feet know the pattern. They know the spacing. They know the precise moment when you're supposed to lift your knee and when you're supposed to make contact with the ground. Your boots hit the ground in unison with 34 other pairs of boots. The sound echoes off the buildings that surround the parade ground: officers' quarters, supply, building, medical tent. The sound is powerful. It's the sound of unified purpose. It's the sound of unified purpose. It's the sound of 35 individual men moving as though they were one organism. When you march, you stop being yourself. You stop being the person who misses his mother's coffee, who has a scar on his cheekbone, who wakes up before the alarm wondering if there will be mail. You become part of something larger than your individual concerns. The officer calls out commands, left about face. Your body rotates 180 degrees, forward march, forward. Your left foot comes forward. Left turn, your body turns. Halt, you stop. Your body responds before your mind fully processes the words. This is the point of the drill, you think sometimes, and not to teach you how to march, you already know how to march, but to teach you how to respond without thinking, to teach your body to take commands directly, bypassing the reasoning part of your brain, to teach you to be a body that moves in coordination with other bodies rather than a mind that makes individual decisions. The parade ground is packed, earth-worn smooth by thousands of marching feet. Your footfall creates a small cloud of dust. In the morning light, you can see all 35 dust clouds rising together, small pale explosions of earth with every footstep. Puddles from last night's rain reflect the grey sky. Some men march through the puddles, some step carefully around them, breaking formations slightly to avoid the water. The officer doesn't correct them. Maybe he hasn't noticed. Maybe he's chosen not to notice. Your uniform absorbs the dampness from the air. By the end of drill, the wool smells even more strongly of itself, that wet wool smell that you've learned to associate with morning, with exercise, with the particular quality of an English morning. Your breath comes harder as you march. The physical exertion wakes up your whole body in a way that the cold water and the cold coffee didn't. You feel your heart working. You feel your lungs filling. You feel alive, or at least you feel the physical sensations that confirm you're alive. The precision of marching satisfies something in you. The synchronization, the unity of movement. 35 men, moving as one organism, responding to the same commands, following the same rhythm. Individual concerns fade when you march. There is only the rhythm and the commands and the collective motion. There is only the feeling of being part of something larger than yourself. For 30 minutes each morning, you stop being the person who left home, who hasn't heard from Catherine in 8 weeks, who wonders if the girl he left behind still thinks about him. For 30 minutes, you're just a body moving in coordination with other bodies. For 30 minutes, you're safe in the anonymity of the collective. When drill ends, your individual concerns return immediately. The moment the final command is given and you break formation, the weight of your personal thoughts settles back on your shoulders. You can feel it. It's almost physical, but for those 30 minutes, you got to set it down. You got to be part of something that didn't require you to remember home or fear the future or wonder what it all means. Sometimes that's enough. The man beside you in formation is Hank. He catches your eye as you're coming to attention. There's an understanding there, unspoken but clear. You both survived this. You both made it through another drill. You both know that at some point, maybe years from now, this will end. You'll go home. You'll return to a life where you don't have to march in formation or stand at attention or wear a uniform. But for now, you march. For now, you endure. Physical training comes next. You report to the PT instructor, a man whose name you don't know and whose face you barely remember, because he doesn't look you in the eye when he gives commands. He just barks them out into the cold morning air and expects compliance. Push-ups. 50 count. I want to see, chest to deck, or they don't count. You drop to the ground. The earth is cold and damp. You place your hands shoulder-width apart. You lower your body. Chest to deck. Up. Chest to deck. Up. By the time you reach 20, your shoulders are burning. By 30, your whole body is shaking slightly. By 40, you're just pushing through, not thinking about anything except the next repetition and the one after that. Somewhere in the middle of this, you become aware that you're part of a group of men all doing the same thing, all experiencing the same burning in their shoulders, the same shakiness, the same moment of wondering if they can do one more. There's something binding about this. Something that creates a kind of brotherhood that you didn't ask for but have grown to appreciate. These men, Marcus, who's pushing through with his usual determination, Will, who's struggling, who might not make it to 50, but who's trying anyway, Tommy, who hums between breaths. They're not your friends, not exactly. They're just men you exist alongside day after day. When the instructor calls time, you collapse onto the ground, breathing hard. Your chest is heaving. Your arms feel like they're not entirely connected to your body anymore, but you're done. You did it. You'll do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, until your body stops being surprised by it and starts expecting it. Sit-ups on the damp grass, running laps around the perimeter of the camp. Your breath comes in white puffs in the cold air. Your muscles complain at first, then settle into the work. The man running beside you makes a joke about how his mother's cooking gave him better endurance training than any army exercise. A few others laugh, conserving breath between words. By 9 a.m., you're exhausted in a way that's almost cleansing. You've pushed your body to its limit and found you're still standing. That counts for something. By 9 a.m., the PT instructor dismisses you and you report to your assignment for the day. This is where your day diverges from some of the others, where Marcus goes to supply, checking inventory loading trucks, and where Will goes to maintenance, and where Hank ends up in the motor pool. You are assigned to the mail office. The mail office is housed in a tent near the administrative building. It smells differently than the barracks, not of wool and sweat, but of paper and ink and possibility. This is where connection happens. This is where the outside world reaches into this place and reminds you that you still exist to people beyond these gates. You're not alone here. There's a Corporal Jensen who oversees the mail sorting and 2 other soldiers who rotate through. But mostly it's quiet work, repetitive work, work that requires focus but not creativity. The work itself is simple letters arrive in batches from the postal service. They're in various states of preservation, some pristine, some water-damaged, some with postmarks so faded you can barely read them. You sort them by name, alphabetical order. Each name gets its own stack. At 2 p.m. every day, mail call happens. Jensen calls out the names. Men come forward. Their faces show their reactions before they can control them. Relief if a letter came, disappointment if it didn't. You watch these reactions like you're studying a language you don't speak yet. But here's the thing about working in the mail office: you see everything. You handle letters from wives, letters from mothers, letters from sweethearts. Some have perfume, some have children's drawings, some have photos tucked inside. Some are thick with content. Some are thin, written in a hand that shakes slightly. And you see which men get letters and which don't. You notice that Hank gets letters regularly. A letter arrives almost every 2 weeks, always in the same handwriting, always addressed to Hank Kowalski in a woman's careful script. You know, this is his wife. You've seen him look at the envelopes like they're made of gold. You notice that Marcus went 6 weeks without getting anything. You watched him get quieter and quieter during that time. And then 3 days ago, a letter came, his mother's handwriting, not as careful as Hank's wife's, but determined to reach him. And Marcus changed after that. The complaint in his voice shifted. It became lighter, somehow less desperate. You notice that Will Reardon hasn't received a single letter in the entire time you've been working here. 4 months. No mail, nothing. You watch him during mail call. Watch him not expecting his name to be called. Watch him seem almost relieved when it isn't like there's no disappointment to feel if you've already decided nothing's coming. That scares you more than anything else you've witnessed here. And you notice that Catherine's letters have stopped. There used to be one every week, then every 2 weeks, then sporadic, then nothing. 8 weeks of nothing. You don't know why. You run through the possibilities. She found someone else. She decided distance was too hard. She moved and he doesn't have the new address. She's hurt and making a point. She's waiting for you to write something more meaningful than the letters you've been sending. She's lost interest. She's moved on. The torture of not knowing is worse than the torture of knowing something concrete, even if that something is bad. You work through the morning, sorting letters, stacking them, checking names against the roster. By noon, you break for lunch. The food is roughly the same as breakfast, a sandwich with dense bread cheese that's sharp and slightly crumbly, an apple, if the supply shipment came in recently. More coffee or sometimes tea that's strong enough to strip paint, or so the jokes go. You eat quickly because lunch break lasts only 30 minutes. The afternoon will continue with more work. Time moves differently here. Hours can feel like minutes when you're focused on a task. Minutes can feel like hours when you're waiting for something to happen. You've learned to exist in this strange temporal state where calendars matter more than clocks, where you mark time by mail deliveries and weekend passes rather than by the position of the sun. By 4 p.m. a brief rest period is announced. 2 hours of free time before dinner preparations. You have a choice now. You could join the card games that Hank and some of the others are running. You could listen to the phonograph in the recreation tent. You could sit outside if it's not too cold. You could write a letter. You choose to write. Around 4 p.m. you return to the barracks for the rest period. Some men head to the recreation tent where someone has set up a card game. Others go outside seeking quiet. A few lie on their bunks and stare at the ceiling, lost in their own thoughts. You pull out paper and a pencil. The paper is thin and slightly rough, military issued, stamped with some official insignia you stopped reading weeks ago. The pencil needs sharpening. You carve a fresh point with your pocket knife. The shavings fall onto your blanket. You brush them away, can't leave evidence for inspection. You stare at the blank paper for a long moment. This is always the hardest part. Not the writing itself, but the beginning. What do you say to someone you haven't seen in 4 months? What do you tell your mother about a life she can't picture? How do you bridge the gap between here and there? You think about Catherine, you think about the silence, you think about what you want to tell her if you ever hear from her again. Would you tell her you're angry? That you're hurt? That you've been waiting, like she's been waiting? If she's been waiting, and that you're scared? The distance has already won, that maybe she's already made a decision, and you just haven't received the letter that explains it? Instead, you pick up your pencil and begin to write to your mother. Dear Ma, I hope this letter finds you well. The weather here has been cold, but we're managing. The food is adequate. The routine is consistent. These sentences are true but not real. They're the sentences you write because you can't write the true ones. You're translating chaos into acceptable words. You're protecting her from what she can't help with. There's a whole language developing inside you, the language of what you can say and what you can't say. The language of survival. You want to write, I miss you so much that sometimes I can't breathe when I think about it. I'm not sure what I'm doing here or if any of this makes sense. I'm scared. I wake up afraid. I fall asleep afraid. But you don't write that because she already worries, because she's already waking up at whatever hour coincides with your morning, thinking about you, wondering if you're safe. Because if you tell her you're scared, she'll worry more, and she has enough to worry about already. You continue writing. I think about you every morning when I drink the coffee here. It's not like yours nothing here is like it is at home, but it's warm and it helps me start the day. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're getting enough rest. You pause. You want to write constantly when you say you think about home. But constantly is too much. It will worry her. It will make her think you're suffering. She needs to believe you're coping. She needs to believe you're fine, or at least fine enough. You continue, I think about home. I hope the garden is coming in nicely. She's not actually gardening. That's the code between you. The garden means the normal things, the small things, the things that keep life moving forward. She's asking you in her letters to keep believing that normal life exists somewhere, and you're asking her to keep living it, to not let the waiting destroy her. I hope you're being kind to yourself. That's an order from me to you, Ma. Take care of yourself the way you take care of everyone else. This is the real message. You need her to know that her survival matters to you, that you're not just waiting to come home. You're waiting for her to keep living. You tell her about the men you're with, nothing too specific, nothing that could be used tactically if the letter is intercepted, but enough so she knows you're not alone. I'm part of a unit of good men. We look after each other. You write, I'm proud to be serving. I understand why this matters. The work is important even when the work is routine. This isn't entirely true. You don't think about the war much. You think about survival. But she needs to believe you believe in something beyond yourself. She needs to believe your sacrifice means something. You finish the letter the way you always finish them. I hope this letter finds you safe and well. I will write again soon. All my love, Jim. The formality of it is strange. You don't normally speak like this. But something about letters requires formality. Something about the distance requires official words, as if official words will survive the journey better than honest ones, as if the weight of all my love, Jim on paper counts more than a casual love you, Ma, spoken face to face. You read over the letter. It's 2 pages. It took maybe 20 minutes to write. You said nothing important, really. You said nothing about the fear or the uncertainty or the way Catherine's silence is eating away at you. You said nothing about Will Reardon who's breaking, or about the way you're all just waiting, all of you, for something. For letters. For the war to end, for someone to tell you that you matter. But underneath what you wrote between the lines, all of that is there. Anyone who knows you well enough would understand. Your mother will read this letter and she'll know you're surviving. She'll know you're thinking of her. She'll know you're coming home someday, even if it takes years. And that's all she needs to know. You fold the letter carefully, twice, then you place it in an envelope. You write your mother's address on the front, her address in Connecticut, which you've been writing on envelopes for 4 months now, but which you still have to think about for a second before the muscle memory takes over. The address feels ancient, like it's from another life. You will give this letter to Corporal Jensen tomorrow morning. He'll put it in the outgoing mail. It will begin its journey in about 2 weeks, if the mail isn't delayed, if the ship carrying the mail doesn't get torpedoed. If anything goes right at all, your mother will receive this letter. She'll open it carefully. She always opens letters carefully, as if she's afraid of tearing something precious. She'll read it slowly. She'll read it again. She'll put it in a drawer where she's keeping all the other letters you've sent, and she'll add it to the stack. And she'll believe what you've written. She'll believe you're fine. She'll believe you're proud. She'll believe you're coming home. She won't know about the silence from Catherine. She won't know about the fear. She won't know about the way you're learning to endure separation, the way you learn to endure cold, by accepting it, by finding the routine that gets you through, by believing that eventually it will end. But she will know that you love her. That's the one thing that comes through clearly. That's the one thing that survives the distance intact. You look at the envelope, you're holding it, your own words, enclosed your own attempt to reach across the distance and touch someone you love. Around you, other men are doing the same thing. Marcus is writing something. Dave is writing too, his handwriting different from yours, faster, more desperate somehow. Tommy is lying on his bunk, humming instead of writing. Hank is already finished, his letters written, his connection to home already made secure for another few days. And you think about what this means. All of you simultaneously trying to reach across distance, trying to maintain connections that geography is dissolving, trying to be loved by people who are gradually forgetting them or might be forgetting them or might not be forgetting them at all. And everyone knows this. And everyone is doing it anyway, because the alternative is accepting that the distance has won. The alternative is silence. And silence is worse than anything. You finish sealing the envelope. The flap of the envelope is glue that tastes faintly of chemicals. You press it down, and just like that, your words are enclosed. They're no longer yours. They belong to the postal system now. They belong to chance and luck and the hope that the ocean between you and your mother will permit safe passage. You sit on your bunk for a moment holding the envelope. Will Reardon is asleep beside you. The kid's always exhausted, always pushing his body to keep his mind too busy to worry. He's curled on his side, his blanket pulled up to his chin, his face finally peaceful. You wonder what he dreams about. You wonder if he dreams about home, or if his mind is kind enough to create new worlds where home doesn't exist and therefore doesn't haunt him. Around you, the barracks is entering that in-between time. Some men are still writing, some are playing cards in the corner, some are reading books that are being passed around. Adventure stories, mostly nothing too demanding. Nobody wants to think too hard right now. Nobody wants to engage with anything more complicated than a plot they've already forgotten most of. Marcus is still writing. You watch him covertly. He's hunched over his paper, his pencil, moving quickly. What is he writing? To his mother, you think? To a girl, maybe. To someone. His face is concentrated. This matters to him. This reaching across distance, it's not just habit, it's survival. Dave Sullivan is writing too, without him telling you that he's writing to a woman. The way he's positioned himself, the way he's sometimes pausing to think, the way he crosses things out and rewrites them. This is a letter that requires precision. This is a letter to someone he cares about more than just obligatorily. You wonder what he's saying. You wonder if the woman he's writing to realizes how much her response or lack of response could change the trajectory of his entire life. Tommy is still just lying there humming. You don't think Tommy has anyone writing to. You don't know his story, not really. You know he's from San Francisco. You know he hums the same song every morning. You know he's always smiling, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. Beyond that, he's a mystery. Maybe he writes letters and doesn't send them. Maybe he's writing letters in his mind that he'll never actually write. Or maybe he's made peace with the fact that distance has already taken everything from him, so why bother reaching across it? Hank is reading a photograph. You can see him from where you're sitting, though you're not trying to look. He has it propped up on his pillow. A woman and 2 children. He's already memorized it, But he looks at it anyway. He looks at it constantly. You've seen him pull it out a dozen times a day. It's worn from handling. The corners are beginning to fold, but he never stops looking. And you think this is what we do. We reach across distance, over and over, day after day, in letters and photographs and memory and hope, and the stubborn refusal to accept that time and geography can break what matters. You place your letter on your pillow. You'll deliver it tomorrow. For now, you just need to know it's written. You need to know you did your part. You reached across the distance. You told your mother you love her in the only language available to you right now. The problem is Catherine. The silence is Catherine. You pull her photograph out of your pocket. You keep it there. Not regulation, but nobody looks hard enough to find it. And you need it. You need to remember what her face looks like. It's becoming harder to picture her clearly without the photograph. You fear that one day you'll try to remember and she'll be gone. Your memory will have substituted someone else's face or a version of her face, that's distorted by time and fear and absence. The photograph is from before the war. It's from a dance at the community center. She's wearing a blue dress, and she's laughing at something someone said just before the photograph was taken. Her hair is down, she usually wore it up. Her eyes are bright, she looks happy. She looks like someone who's not carrying the weight of distance. You turn the photograph over. On the back, she's written, "Jim, don't forget me. Love, Catherine." Simple words, don't forget me. It's not I love you. It's not I'll wait for you. It's not I'm scared. It's just don't forget me. It's a plea. Don't let distance take this. Don't let separation make me a memory that fades. Hold on to me even when we're apart. But you haven't heard from her in 8 weeks. You think about writing to her. You think about putting it all into a letter. The fear, the uncertainty, the questions, are you still there? Are you still mine? Did you find someone else? Are you waiting, or have you moved on, but you know you won't? Because if you send those words and she doesn't respond, then the silence becomes official. It becomes something you can't ignore anymore. Better to maintain the fiction that she's still yours. Better to believe the mail system is just slow. Better to imagine her writing you a letter that's on its way, that will arrive tomorrow or next week, that will explain everything. You put the photograph away. You hold it for a moment longer, though. You let yourself really look at her. You let yourself remember what it felt like before the war, before distance, before you learned that love might not be strong enough to cross oceans. Dave is standing up now. He has his letter. He looks lighter, as though writing has released something. He walks toward the door, probably to find Jensen and add his letter to the outgoing mail. You watch him go. You stand too. You pick up your letter. It's time to do the ritual of passing it on. The mail tent is quieter at this time of day. Most of the sorting is done. Jensen is there organizing bundles, preparing for tomorrow's delivery. He looks up as you enter. Another letter from the world, he asks. To my mother, you say. He nods, like he understands what that means. He probably does. He probably processes 50 letters a day from men trying to maintain connections to the people they love. He probably understands that this is how people survive. Connection over distance. Words on paper standing in for presence. The promise that someone hasn't forgotten you encoded in ink and paper. You hand him the envelope. He adds it to the stack of outgoing mail. Tomorrow it will be processed. Within days it will begin its journey. Within weeks it will arrive. Your mother will open it. She will read your words. She will know you're alive. This is how you survive. On the walk back to the barracks, you think about Catherine. You think about what you'd write. If you knew she was still waiting, you'd tell her the truth. You'd tell her that distance is hard, that waiting is hard, that sometimes you wake up and doubt if she's really yours anymore, or if time has already claimed her, if she's already decided that loving someone across an ocean is too much. But you'd also tell her that if she's still there, if she hasn't moved on, if she hasn't given up, if she's still somehow yours across the distance, then you're still alive in a way that matters. Because you'd have something to come home to. You'd have proof that the separation was temporary. You'd have evidence that love survives distance. You'd tell her, don't give up on me yet. I haven't given up on you. But she hasn't asked you to write that. She hasn't asked you for anything because she hasn't written to you in 8 weeks. And the silence is starting to feel like an answer. Evening brings a few hours of free time. The sun is setting early. It's November now, and darkness comes whether you're ready for it or not. By 6 p.m. the sun is already halfway below the horizon. By 7, it's gone completely. Some men gather in the recreation tent where someone has set up a phonograph. Music plays big band tunes, mostly Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller, and the songs remind everyone of dance halls on Saturday nights back home. The women were there too, dancing in those halls. You danced with someone once, the sister of a friend, and you were terrible at it and she was kind about it anyway. You think about that sometimes. You think about how kindness in small moments can become the thing that keeps you human. Other men shoot pool on a table with felt worn thin in spots. The balls don't roll true anymore, they skip and bounce unpredictably, but no one has bothered to fix it. You could shoot pool if you wanted, you're adequate at pool, but tonight you don't want to. You find a spot in the corner of the barracks where you can be alone without being obviously alone. The corner is near the window. If you sit here, you can see outside a little bit. Not much, just the fence and the guard tower beyond it, but enough. A bit of the outside world that isn't the parade ground or the mess hall or the washroom. The light outside is fading. The sky is that particular blue that comes right before full darkness. In a few minutes it will be completely dark. Then they'll turn on the lights in the barracks and the darkness outside will become absolute. You prefer right now, in this in-between time, when you can still see the sky, but it's dark enough that you don't have to see much detail. A man sits down beside you. It's Hank. You didn't expect this. Hank is the social one. He's always in the center of things, organizing card games, telling stories, keeping everyone's spirits up with jokes about his wife and his kids. But now he sits beside you. And there's a quietness to it. A deliberation. Rough day, he asks. You don't answer immediately. What would you tell him that you spent all day handling other people's connections to the people they love and watching your own connection crumble into silence, that Catherine hasn't written in 8 weeks and you're starting to accept that distance has won? No, you finally say. Just a long day. They're all long, Hank says. But some are longer than others. He pulls something out of his pocket, a photograph, black and white, a woman and 2 children. You've seen this photograph before. Hank shows it to people sometimes. But tonight something feels different about it. Margaret and the kids, he says. That's David, he's 6. Sarah's 3, I know you say. You've heard the stories. David is learning to read. Sarah has started asking for her father. The house is being maintained by Margaret's sister. The garden is being kept. Life is continuing without him. They're real, Hank says. That's what I need you to know. Whatever doubts you're having, whatever fear you're carrying, they're real. The people waiting for you are real. They exist. They're not going to disappear just because distance is happening. You look at the photograph. Margaret is smiling. David is serious the way children are serious in formal photographs. Sarah is looking off camera, distracted by something. This is a family. This is proof that love continues even when people are separated. I wrote to you during mail call today, Hank continues. Did you notice I got a letter from Margaret? 3 weeks old by the time it arrived. But it came. It always comes. And that means she's waiting. She's doing her part, sending me proof that she exists, that she hasn't forgotten me, that when this ends, however it ends, I'll go home and she'll be there. That's good, you say. You want to be happy for him. And you are. But you're also envious. You're also scared that his experience won't be your experience, that your mother will get old waiting, that Catherine will give up. I know you didn't get anything today, Hank says. I watch the mail. I notice who gets called and who doesn't, and I know that's been happening for you for weeks now. You don't respond. It's too painful to say out loud. She might still write, Hank says. The mail gets delayed. The system isn't perfect. Someone's letter gets lost at sea. Someone's letter takes the long way. It doesn't mean they've stopped writing. It doesn't mean they've given up. Or it means exactly that you say, quietly. Maybe Hank admits. Or maybe it means she's scared. Maybe it means she's trying to figure out how to tell you something and she can't find the words. Maybe it means she's moving on and doesn't know how to say that. Or maybe the mail is just slow. He puts the photograph away, but carefully, like it's precious. All I'm saying is, don't give up yet. The ending isn't written. Whatever happens with your girl, she hasn't told you it's over. She's just been quiet. Quiet isn't the same as goodbye. You want to believe him. You want to believe that Catherine is just scared or busy or waiting for the right moment to write back. You want to believe that silence doesn't mean abandonment. Keep writing, Hank says. Even if you don't get responses, keep writing. Because the act of writing is the act of refusing to accept that distance has won. And as long as you're refusing, you haven't lost yet. He stands up. Card game's starting if you want to join. You decline, you're not in the mood for cards. You're not in the mood for anything except this sitting by the window, watching the light fade, holding on to the possibility that Catherine might still be yours. Around you, the barracks settles into evening rhythm. The phonograph is still playing. The card games are underway. Someone is reading. Someone is writing. The men are all doing the things that keep them alive, the routines, the connections, the small acts of resistance against the distance that separates them from the people they love. And you think maybe Hank is right. Maybe the story isn't over yet. Maybe Catherine is out there thinking of you, scared, uncertain, but still yours. Maybe all you have to do is keep showing up, keep writing, keep reaching across the distance. Maybe that's enough. Dinner comes at 8:30. You file in with the others. Stew again with vegetables that are overcooked but plentiful. Bread, pudding for dessert. You eat everything on your tray because waste is unthinkable and because eating is a way of saying, I'm still here, I'm still alive, I'm still willing to continue. After dinner you have until lights out at 10 p.m. 2 hours of free time. Some men read, some men listen to the radio, some men go to bed early. You sit on your bunk and you think about Catherine. You think about what you'll write her next. You think about the possibility that she might respond. You think about the fragile, almost miraculous fact that love can survive distance if both people choose to make it survive. You think about the men around you, all of them waiting, all of them writing, all of them refusing to accept that geography is stronger than love. You think about your mother who will receive your letter, who will know that you're alive, that you're thinking of her, that you're coming home someday, and you begin to understand something. The routine isn't meaningless. The drill, the inspection, the breakfast, the lunch, the mail office, none of it's meaningless, because all of it is what fills the time between now and home. All of it is what keeps you alive. All of it is proof that you're surviving. And survival is how you prove to the people you love that you're worth waiting for. Around 10 o'clock p.m. lights out comes. The next morning arrives exactly like the previous one. 5:30 a.m. Sergeant Whitmore's wake-up call. Up, 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 let's move, you dress, you eat, you inspect, you drill. It's all automatic now. The routine has become so ingrained that you could do it in your sleep. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the routine is designed to work when your mind is elsewhere. Maybe it's designed to hold you together even when you're falling apart. By 9 a.m. you're in the mail office again. The mail has arrived, a new batch of letters, some water-stained, some pristine. You begin your work sorting, alphabetizing, stacking. Your hands do the work while your mind drifts. You're thinking about Catherine. You're thinking about the 8 weeks of silence. You're thinking about whether hope is something you should be holding on to or whether you should have let it go by now. And then a letter with your name. Handwriting, you know. Catherine's handwriting. Your hands actually shake as you pick it up. Around you, the world becomes quiet. Corporal Jensen continues working, but to you, there's no sound except the sound of your own heartbeat. There's this letter, this envelope, this proof that Catherine hasn't disappeared, that she's still there, that she's reached across the distance and written to you. The postmark says it was written 6 weeks ago. It's taken 2 weeks to arrive. That's why she hasn't written recently, because she did write. The mail is just slow. You don't open it in the mail office. You can't. This letter is private. This letter is sacred. You slip it into your pocket against your ribs, where you keep everything that matters, where you keep your mother's letters, where you keep your life. The rest of the morning passes like a dream. You complete your work. You deliver the mail at 2 p.m. when mail call happens. You watch the men react to their letters or their disappointment. You listen to the names being called. And you don't raise your hand. You don't claim your letter. Not yet. You need to be alone when you read it. At 4 p.m. rest period comes. You go back to the barracks. Will Reardon is asleep again. The kid sleeps away half the day now, trying to escape. You sit on your bunk. You pull out the letter. You hold the envelope for a long moment before opening it. You let yourself feel the weight of this moment. This letter has traveled across an ocean. It's crossed a war. It's survived the possibility of being lost forever. And it arrived. It's in your hands. You open it carefully. The letter is several pages, written in Catherine's careful handwriting. You read, "My dearest Jim, I hope you'll forgive me for not writing. I've wanted to write 1,000 times. I've started letters that I couldn't finish. I've thought about what to say and found myself unable to say anything that seemed true. The truth is, I've been scared. Scared that distance would make me love you less. Scared that time would change who you are. Scared that when you come home, if you come home, you won't recognize me or I won't recognize you. My mother said I should move on. She said it's not fair to either of us to wait. She said that war changes people and I should let you go so you can survive without the weight of waiting for me. I almost listened to her. But I realized something. Love isn't about whether distance breaks it. Love is about choosing to reach across the distance anyway. I'm reaching across it now. I don't know what will happen. I don't know if you'll still love me when you come home. I don't know if I'll still be the Catherine you remember. But I know that I'm the Catherine who loves you, and I'm going to be here. Writing weekly from now on, being proof that someone on this side of the ocean still thinks of you, wants you to come home, believes in a future with you. If that future doesn't exist, we'll grieve it together. But I'm not abandoning hope before the grieving has to happen. I love you, Jim. I miss you. I think about you constantly. Come home safe. Catherine. You read the letter again. And again, you read it until you've memorized every word, every punctuation mark, every expression of her choice to reach across distance. Relief floods through you, profound relief. She was scared, she wavered, but she came back. She chose you. She's going to write weekly. She's going to wait. She's going to be there. Will Reardon is still sleeping beside you. You don't move. You just sit with this letter in your hands and you feel something shift in your chest. Something that's been tight, anxious, afraid, it releases. Slightly. Not entirely, but enough. You put the letter away carefully. You fold it and you place it in your pocket where you keep the things that matter. Where you keep proof that you're loved. And you understand finally what Hank meant. It's not about the mail arriving quickly. It's not about constant letters. It's about choosing to reach. It's about Catherine doing the work. about her pushing through her fear to tell you that she still loves you, about her refusing to let distance win. That evening you write back immediately, "My dearest Catherine, your letter arrived today. I've read it 5 times already, and I'll probably read it 5 more times before I sleep. Thank you for being scared and choosing me anyway. Thank you for reaching across the distance. Thank you for refusing to let fear be stronger than love. I'm scared too. I'm scared every day. But your letter has changed something. You've given me proof that the distance doesn't have to be permanent. You've given me a reason to keep surviving. I love you. I miss you. I'm coming home. Jim." You seal it quickly before you can second-guess yourself. You add it to the outgoing mail. Tomorrow it will begin its journey across the ocean. In 2 weeks, Catherine will hold this letter in her hands. She'll know that you received hers. She'll know that you choose her too. This is survival. This is what keeps people alive, not the absence of fear, but the choice to reach across distance anyway, the choice to love someone you can't see, the choice to believe in a future that might not exist. You found something you didn't know you were looking for: hope. Not the hope that the war will end soon, not the hope that you'll come home next month or next year, but the hope that when you do come home, Catherine will be there, that your mother will be there, that the people you love will still know you. That's enough. That's everything. Days continue. The routine doesn't change. Still 5:30 wake up. Still breakfast inspection drill work. Still evening free time. Still the mail office sorting letters, watching men's faces light up or fall when their names are called or not called. But internally, everything is different. You move through the routine now with understanding. It's not escape from self. It's not just time passing. It's preparation. It's practice. It's how you prove you're worth waiting for. Every morning you get out of bed and you face. The cold water is a moment of choosing Catherine. Every inspection you pass is proof that you're holding it together. Every letter you sort is a connection you're facilitating. Every day you survive is another day closer to home. You join the card games now. You have something to offer: hope. The men notice the change in you. They watch the way Catherine's letter has steadied something inside you. Some of them ask about her. You show them the letter carefully, reverently. You tell them the story: 8 weeks of silence, then her letter arriving, then understanding that she was scared and reached across it anyway. Will Reardon listens. Will has been slowly breaking day by day, but something in your story reaches him. He asks quietly, "Think my mum will write?" Maybe you tell him, or maybe she will, and the mail is slow. Or maybe she will when she knows you want her to. Write to her. Tell her you need her. Tell her you're here, you're surviving. You need proof that someone remembers you exist. A week later, Will receives a letter from his mother. Short, awkward, but there. And something in his face changes. He stops crying at night. He starts sitting with the group sometimes instead of always being alone. He's not fixed, not completely, but he's not breaking anymore. Marcus's mother writes every 2 weeks. He's written back now, and there's a steady conversation happening across the distance. His voice has changed. The complaining has taken on a lighter quality. He has proof that he's remembered. He has proof that home still exists. Dave's letters are returned to him sometimes. The woman he's writing to, you're pretty sure now it's someone specific, hasn't responded to several of them. It's painful to watch, but he keeps writing, he keeps reaching. And one day a letter comes back. You see his face when it happens. The relief is visible, physical, transformative. Hank's wife writes faithfully. Margaret sends photographs. The children are growing. David is learning to read. Sarah is becoming more verbal. The house is being maintained. Life is continuing. And Hank has proof of it every 2 weeks. He has concrete evidence that his family still exists, that they're waiting, that when he comes home they'll be there. You begin to understand the mathematics of survival. It's not about the length of the letters. It's not about how often they arrive. It's about the choice. About both people choosing to reach across distance. About refusing to let time and geography destroy what matters. You write to Catherine every other day now, sometimes just small things, sometimes longer reflections. You write about the men around you, you write about the routine, you write about your fear, you write about your hope, and you ask her to write back, even if it's just to tell you she's still there. She writes back, not always immediately, because mail is slow, but she writes, sometimes long letters, sometimes short ones, but always present, always choosing you. Your mother continues to write. Shorter letters, less frequently, but still there. She's aging, you can feel it in her handwriting. Her concerns have shifted. She's worried about you, but she's also starting to think about what happens when you come home, what comes next, how to rebuild a relationship that's been interrupted by years of separation. You think about this too. You think about what it will be like to see her face again, to see Catherine again, to return to a world that's continued without you, that's changed without you, that might not have a place for you anymore, but you're willing to find out because they're reaching across the distance too, because they're not giving up on you, because you matter to them enough that they're willing to try. The routine sustains you while you wait. The drill teaches you discipline. The inspection teaches you to care about details. The mail office teaches you how precious connection is. The meals teach you to appreciate sustenance. The evening free time teaches you to find moments of peace in chaos. By the end of November, something has shifted. The war still continues somewhere far away. But in the barracks, there's a kind of peace. Not contentment, not happiness, but acceptance. The men have learned how to endure. They've learned how to reach across distance. They've learned that love can travel, that hope can survive. That if you keep choosing the people you love, eventually you'll get to go home. And that's what you're surviving for. Not for victory, not for glory, but for the possibility of home, for the possibility of holding Catherine again, for the possibility of sitting with your mother and drinking coffee and having time pass slowly enough that you can actually see each other's faces. The routine has become your salvation. 3 months later, in February 1944, you receive orders. You're being reassigned, not going home, but going to different barracks. Further from the war, but also further from Catherine in terms of postal delivery, greater distance, but also closer to where soldiers are being discharged, closer to when the war might end, closer to possibility of going home. Your first reaction is dread. You've built a life here. These men have become your brothers. The routine is familiar. Catherine's letters come to this address. If you leave, what happens to the connection? Then you understand the war is shifting. People are being moved around. The system is preparing for something. Maybe the tide is turning. Maybe home is closer than you thought. The night before leaving, you gather with your men. Hank, Marcus, Tommy, Will. Others. You don't talk much. You don't need to. You just sit together. The phonograph plays Tommy's song. The card games continue. You exist in the space between goodbye and not goodbye because you'll probably see each other again eventually. You probably won't. Hank hands you something. a photograph, a copy of his wife and children. So you remember he says, so you know that people wait. So you know that when you get scared, you can look at this and remember that it's possible. You look at Margaret and David and Sarah. You think about Catherine. You think about your mother. You understand what Hank is giving you proof. Tangible, physical proof that love survives distance. Thank you, you say. Marcus offers you something too. A card, an address. My cousin, he says. When you get home, you look him up. Tell him Marcus said you're good people. He'll take you out, introduce you around, help you figure out civilian life again. Will just hugs you. The kid has transformed. He's received letters from his mother now. Not many, but some. Enough. He's going to survive this. You too, he tells you, you made it possible to survive. Don't forget that. Tommy gives you his song. That's all just the memory of his constant humming. But it's enough. It's the memory of normalcy, the proof that even in chaos, humans create small rituals that keep them sane. You leave them letters hidden in your bunks. Letters to whoever comes after you, whoever occupies your bed, whoever thinks their situation is hopeless, dear soldier. You might not know it yet, but you're going to survive this. Not because it will be easy, not because you're particularly strong, but because you're going to reach across distance and find that other people are reaching back. Write letters. Write them even if you don't send them. Write them especially if you're scared. Write them to your mother, your love, your friend, whoever matters to you. And if you're very lucky, they'll write back. If they do, you're going to be okay. If they don't, you're still going to be okay, but you'll have to find another reason to keep going. Another person to reach for. I'm leaving this letter for you because I want you to know you're not alone. We're all here, all of us, in this barracks, all of us reaching across distance, all of us trying to prove that love is stronger than geography. It is, I promise you. Love survives distance, but only if you choose it, only if you keep reaching. So keep reaching, Jim. You fold the letter and place it in the bunk for whoever comes next, for the chain of humans all doing the same thing, all surviving, all reaching, all enduring. The reassignment happens quickly. You're moved to a different barracks in a different town. The mail system adjusts. Catherine's letters still reach you, though they take longer now. Your mother's letters follow. The connection persists. Distance changes, but love adapts. Months pass. The war continues, but something is shifting. Soldiers are being discharged. News comes of the European campaign. The possibility of coming home feels less theoretical and more real. In May 1945, the war in Europe ends. You're eligible to go home. You have to wait your turn. The system is processing thousands of men, but you know it's coming. During the wait, you receive a package from Catherine. Not just letters, but a package. Inside a hand-knitted scarf. Catherine has learned to knit. Every stitch was her reaching across distance. A photograph, a new photograph. Catherine smiling, still the woman you love, slightly older, but unmistakably Catherine. And a jar. Homemade jam, made in her mother's kitchen with Catherine helping, thinking of you the whole time. You wear the scarf despite the summer heat. You look at the photograph daily. You share the jam carefully rationed with the men around you. Each small spoonful is proof that love survives. That people on the other side of the ocean are still thinking of you, are still waiting. In September 1945, your discharge comes through. You're going home. The train ride is long. The bus ride is longer. But eventually you're back in Connecticut. You're back where you started, though everything has changed. The town is the same, but you're different. The world is the same, but it's been 3 years, and you're not the same person. Catherine meets you at the station. She's more beautiful than you remembered. Not because your memory was false, but because beauty has been supplemented by the knowledge that she waited, that she reached across distance, that when you doubted she chose you anyway. You embrace for a long time. Neither of you speaks. Words aren't necessary. Your mother is waiting at home. She cries when she sees you. She doesn't recognize you at first. You've changed that much. But then she does. And she holds you. And you're home. Over the next weeks and months, you rebuild. You find a job. You begin to build a life with Catherine. You spend time with your mother, relearning how to be her son after being a soldier for so long. You write to Hank and Marcus and Will and Tommy. You exchange addresses, phone numbers, the information that lets you stay connected to the men who saved your life simply by existing alongside you. Years later, when you're older, you'll look back on those months in the barracks and you'll understand what they meant. They weren't wasted time. They were foundation. They were the place where you learned how to endure, how to reach across distance, how to love someone you can't see, how to believe in a future that exists only in hope. You'll tell the story to your children. You'll tell them about a young man who learned in a barracks in England that love survives distance if both people choose to make it survive. That routine has meaning, that showing up matters, that small acts of reaching across the distance between us are what keep us human. And on quiet nights, you'll read Catherine's old letters. You'll look at photographs from the war. You'll remember Hank and his wife's photograph. You'll hum Tommy's song, which you never did learn the actual name of. You'll think of Will, who became strong because you showed him how. And you'll understand that war gave you the gift of knowing what matters. It took distance to teach you that love is durable. It took separation to teach you that reaching across it is what makes you human. You survived, not because you were unbreakable, but because you were part of something, because people waited, because you kept choosing them day after day, letter after letter, moment after moment. That's what it means to be far from home, and that's how you get home again. So, dear listener, as you're drifting off to sleep, and I hope you are by now, your mind soft and your body heavy, I want to leave you with this. If you're listening tonight and you're missing someone, if you're carrying distance, if you're wondering whether the separation is too great, whether love can cross it, whether you should even bother trying to maintain connection across the gap that's between you and the people you love, I want you to know what Jim Hartwell learned. You matter to someone. Maybe they haven't written yet. Maybe the mail is slow. Maybe they're scared, like Catherine was scared. But somewhere, someone is thinking of you. Someone is choosing you. Someone is reaching across the distance. And your job, your only job, is to reach back. Write the letter, make the call, send the message, show up, keep choosing. Because that's what love is. It's not the absence of distance, it's the choice to reach across it anyway. Sleep now. Sleep knowing that you matter. Sleep knowing that distance can be crossed. Sleep knowing that tomorrow you can reach out to someone you love and tell them they matter to you. That's all they need. That's all any of us need. Someone chose you. Now choose them back.